Shalom. Welcome to lesson 28 of our Israel Institute for Torah Studies Discipleship Training Program. We are on lesson 28, Metzora, cleansing the leper. And if you were with us during our previous teaching presentation, then you will definitely want to be a part of this teaching presentation, because in this teaching presentation we're actually going to be looking at how a leper can be cleansed. And in our previous teaching presentation we likened leprosy to a physical manifestation of a spiritual condition. And so some of you may have found out for yourself that you are leprous. Certainly our country, our nation is a leprous nation. And so we want to go deep into the word of Yahweh to find out exactly what can be done. What are the procedures in cleansing someone of their leprosy? All right, let's begin by going into our outline. We have only the lesson, even though it comprises of 33 verses, we have only two partitions, or it is the outline basically is twofold. And so let's look at them. The first partition is from verse 1 to 32 and is entitled Purification Rites for Individuals, and from 33 to 53, which is entitled Zarahat in Building Stones. And so let's move on now to our suggested questions. What is the meaning of the word Metzora? Give two reasons why two birds were used in the cleansing process. What are the 7 cardinal points of man? Alright, so what are the 7 cardinal points of man? I left that out, so let me just put that in. What are the 7 cardinal points of man? Alright, why must the blood be applied to the extremities of the person who needs cleansing? And why was the scarlet thread used in the cleansing process? And question number 6, why are 2 different types of plants used? Now let's look on the terms, and we are carrying over some of the terms from our previous teaching presentation. So Tazria means leprosy, Zarahat means leprosy, and of course one of the reasons why there are 2 different words is because, as we said, leprosy describes not only a skin condition, but it speaks about fungus, it speaks about molds, it speaks about acne, it speaks about boils, it speaks about not only skin conditions but different agents that causes contamination or the spread of diseases. Then we have Sarah or Tsara, which means leper. Brit Milah means covenant of circumcision. Tumeh or Tameh, and this means to be physically defiled, common, regular, or sick. Then we have Nida, which means menstruous woman. Miskapath means clean legion. Mot Shemra are Metzora, which means cleansing the leper. Alright, so those are the terminologies that we will be encountering throughout this Yom Teachings presentation. Now, as I said before, that we spoke about Zaraat. We likened it to spiritual leprosy, which means and we look at it in its two form. We look at it, one in its primary form, and that is external physical manifestation as a result of stuff that is happening internally. And so we looked at emotional abuse and how emotional abuse, if not tended to by experienced, trained and well-taught persons, how persons who on their own try to manage their emotional wounds, how it can spill over and begin to affect society. It affects society through persons becoming physically abusive, through persons becoming slanderous, through persons spreading gossip, through persons creating dissension between brethren. We spoke about those 7 things found in Proverbs chapter 6. We also spoke about Zaraat as a result of secondary motivational factors, primarily by associating with persons who themselves are emotionally distraught, emotionally wounded, persons who are bitter, persons who are angry, and these persons pass on their bad speech, their evil speech, their infectious spiritual conditions, if you want to use that word, to other persons. I know persons begin to perpetuate that same condition that they inherited or that they contracted from somebody else. Alright, so we are going to be looking now at how those persons with those scabs, how you can receive healing, those persons who contracted Saria, Sarahat from other persons, how they can overcome it. Alright, so let's go right into the word of Yahweh. We're going to be looking at our first outline, which is purification rites for individuals. Leviticus 14 verse 1 to 32. And I know that the readings are long, but we're just following this wonderful tradition. And the tradition that we are sharing with you is over 4,000 years old. The tradition of studying the Torah and then practicing it until it becomes habit. This is a over 4,000 years tradition. It is believed to have begun with Nehemiah when he came out of the captivity. And so this was a tradition that Yeshua practiced. One of the reasons why it is believed that Yeshua walked the earth for 3.5 years was because he was living out, he was walking out the actual teachings of the Torah. And so that's why he constantly said that, listen to me, this brothers, disciples, suffer it to be so, because I must fulfill that which is written in the laws or the Torah and the prophets. And so we are participating in a discipleship program that Yeshua and the disciples were a part of. Friends, if you want to understand why Kepha's life was transformed from denying Yeshua to being one of the most boldest disciples ever to walk the earth, then you need to commit yourself to studying the Torah and practicing it until it becomes habit. All right, let's go into the word of Yahweh, Leviticus 14 verse 1. And it's important that you read through, because when your faith comes by hearing and hearing by the word, and so when you are reading these passages, you are reading faith into your spirit. All right, let's read verse 1. And Yahweh spake unto Moses, saying, This shall be the law or the instruction of the leper in the day of his cleansing. He shall be brought into the priest, and the priest shall go forth out of the camp, and the priest shall look, and behold, if the plague of leprosy be healed in the leper, then shall the priest command to take for him that is to be cleansed 2 birds alive and clean, and cedar wood, scarlet, and hyssop. And we're going to explain to you why those three apparatuses, if you want, those 3 tools were a part of the cleansing process. And the priest shall command that one of the birds be killed in an earthen vessel over running water. The word earthen vessel means a vessel made from the earth or clay. And the bird had to be slaughtered over running water, because running water is symbolic of life. And so the bird had to be slain over earthen vessel from whence we came, over running water. Water symbolizes life, and it would carry away that guilty blood. As for the living bird, he shall take it, and the cedar wood, and the scarlet, and the hyssop, and shall dip them and the living bird in the blood of the bird that was killed over the running water. And he shall sprinkle upon him that is to be cleansed from the leprosy 7 times, and shall pronounce him clean, and shall let the living bird loose in the open field. Now, friends, we're going to be going through this as timely as we can, but I want you to take note of the instructions from verse 5 to verse 7. We're going to be dealing with them in details. I want you to take careful note, mark that portion of your scripture, underline that portion of your scripture, because this basically describes the order, the sequence of events, and the instruction as to what must be done. All right. Let's now look at verse 8 downwards. And he that is to be cleansed shall wash his clothes and shave off all his hair and wash himself in water, that he may be clean. And after that he shall come into the camp and shall tarry abroad out of his tent 7 days. But it shall be on the seventh yom, or the seventh day, that he shall shave all his hair off his head, and his beard, and his eyebrows. Even all his hair he shall shave off. And he shall wash his clothes. Also he shall wash his flesh in water, and shall be clean. And on the 8th yom, on the 8th day, he shall take 2 he lambs without blemish, and 1 ewe lamb of the first year without blemish, and 3 tenth deals of fine flour for a meat offering, mingled with oil, and 1 log of oil. And the priest shall maketh him clean. And the priest that maketh him clean shall present the man that is to be made clean, and those things before Yahweh at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. And the priest shall take 1 he lamb and offer him for a trespass offering, and the log of oil, and wave them for a wave offering before Yahweh. Now, Yahweh is so careful that he makes allocation for even the poorest of persons. So he's saying that if you don't have a lamb, then you need to bring two birds, one for a sin offering and one for a trespass offering. And if you want to have a better understanding of the sin offering and the trespass offering, then we deal with them in our previous teaching presentation. I believe we look at them in Shemini and Tazria. And so if you want to go back, then you can actually look at those teaching presentation, and it will give you a better understanding. Because if you really don't understand the different offerings and what they really mean, then you really can't appreciate what Yeshua did for you, or the level of what is required as it relates to being restored in fellowship with Yahweh. Verse 13 says, and he shall slay the lamb in the place where he shall kill the sin offering and the burnt offering in the holy place. For as the sin offering is the priest, so is the trespass offering. It is most kodesh. And the priest shall take some of the blood of the trespass offering, and the priest shall put it upon the tip of the right ear of him that is to be cleansed, and upon the thumb of his right hand, and upon the great toe of his right foot. And the priest shall take some of the log of oil, and pour it upon the palm of his own left hand. And the priest shall dip his right finger in the oil that is in his left hand, and shall sprinkle of the oil with his finger 7 times before Yahweh. How many times should he sprinkle it? 7 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There is a very significant reason why he had to sprinkle with his finger the blood of the sin offering 7 times on the person who came for cleansing. Verse 17, and the rest of the oil that is in his hand shall the priest put upon the tip of the right ear of him that is to be cleansed, and upon the thumb of his right hand, and upon the great toe of his right foot, and upon the blood of the trespass offering. And the remnant of the oil that is in the priest's hand he shall pour upon the head of him that is to be cleansed, and the priest shall make an atonement for him before Yahweh. Now let's look on verse 19. And the priest shall offer the sin offering, and make an atonement for him that is to be cleansed from his uncleanness. And afterward he shall kill the burnt offering. And the priest shall offer the burnt offering and the meat offering upon the altar, and the priest shall make an atonement for him, and he shall be clean. And if he be poor, so Yahweh makes allocation even for the poor, and cannot get so much, then he shall take 1 lamb for a trespass offering to be waved, to make an atonement for him, and 1/10 deal of fine flour mingled with oil for a meat offering, and a log of oil, and 2 turtle doves or 2 young pigeons, such as he is able to get. And the one shall be a sin offering, and the other a burnt offering. And he shall bring them on the 8th yom for his cleansing unto the priest, unto the door of the tabernacle of the congregation before Yahweh. And the priest shall take the lamb of the trespass offering, and the log of oil, and the priest shall wave them for a wave offering before Yahweh. And he shall kill the lamb of the trespass offering, and the priest shall take some of the blood of the trespass offering, and put it upon the tip of the right ear of him that is to be cleansed, and upon the thumb of his right hand, and upon the great toe of his right foot. Verse 26. And it reads, And the priest shall pour of the oil into the palm of his own left hand, and the priest shall sprinkle with his right finger some of the oil that is in his left hand 7 times before Yahweh. And the priest shall put up the oil that is in his hand upon the tip of the right ear of him that is to be cleansed, and upon the thumb of his right hand, and upon the great toe of his right foot, upon the place of the blood of the trespass offering. And the rest of the oil that is in the priest's hand he shall put upon the head of him that is to be cleansed, to make an atonement for him before Yahweh. And he shall offer the one of the turtle doves, or of the young pigeon, such as he can get, even such as he is able to get, the one for a sin offering and the other for a burnt offering, with the meat offering, and the priest shall make an atonement for him that is to be cleansed before Yahweh. This is the law or the instruction of him in whom is a plague of leprosy, whose hand is not able to get that which pertaineth to his cleansing. Now, the most creative power in the world is speech. It is one of the characteristics that distinguishes us from other animals. When our speech becomes tarnished, it requires a very powerful remedy. And so we have a responsibility to monitor our speech. We have a responsibility to monitor what comes out of our mouth. Lohan hara, or evil speech, or bad speech, or cursing, or swearing, or telling lies, have an effect on us. And so I want to begin by looking at the different elements, physical elements that were used in the cleansing process. And there are some serious and powerful inherent principles that are embedded in these elements. And so we want to look at them. The first one that we will look at is the 2 pure wild birds. These 2 pure wild birds. Just like how birds are always tweeting and chirping, a slanderer is always slandering. When words leave our lips, they fly to accomplish their purpose. So powerful are our words that we can't take them back, in so much so that their damaging effects are transferred to a bird who has to carry them as a curse. And so we are going to be looking at the effects of that. Whenever we speak, we talk about words flying from someone's mouth. Whenever we speak, words travel through the airwaves. So words carry that same action as birds flying through the airwaves. And just like how birds have to pitch and birds have to stop, that's how words are. Words, when they leave our mouth to accomplish a particular purpose. And believe me, a word cannot continue in the ear forever. A word has to attach itself to something. And so that's one of the most important principle that we must understand. Whenever you speak a word, whenever a word leaves your mouth, word is not just wind. Word will not just be suspended in the ear eternally. It will not be suspended forever. Words have to make an impact. Words have to be sown. So whenever you speak and words leave your mouth, they have to find an area or a place that they embed themselves. That's the word I'm trying to look for. Thank you, Yahweh. So whenever words leave our mouth, they will not be suspended in the ear forever. They have to be embedded somewhere. They have to embed themselves somewhere, and they must embed themselves somewhere. And so I want you to begin to have that graphical image of what a word is what the process that a word goes through before it can begin to manifest itself. And so in the book of Proverbs chapter 26 verse 2, it says, as the bird by wandering, as the swallow by flying, so the curse causeless shall not come on. And so when we speak words and words leave our mouth, those words have to be embedded somewhere. And so if those words that we spoke, if the words that we speak is a curse, and we speak that word targeting someone, if that word, when it goes and realizes that that person does not deserve it, that word, because it has to be embedded somewhere, it will have to go back to where it came from. And so that's the reason why we have to be careful, for whatsoever man soweth, that shall he also reap. We need to understand that words have to be embedded. They will not be suspended forever. It may be that the word is traveling in the airwave for 1,000 years. It may be that the word is traveling for 2,000 years. Doesn't matter how long it is traveling in the airwave. There is a day coming when that word has to be embedded somewhere. And sometimes a word is embedded so soon as it leaves our mouth. And that is the reason why Yahweh gives us that responsibility. He says that on the day of reckoning, those persons whose names are not found in the Lamb's Book of Life will have to give an account for every word that left their mouth. Every word that we spoke, we are going to have to give an account for it. The word of Yahweh says, even a fool is considered to be wise when he keepeth his speech. He that keepeth his mouth keepeth his life. And so we need to understand that words are very powerful, and we should not be hasty in speaking, hasty in saying things, hasty in allowing words to leave our mouth, because Yahweh holds us responsible. Why? Because they have creative power. The two most powerful creative power, the two most creative powers that Yahweh has given to us is the creative power of speech and the creative power of procreation, or of reproducing ourselves as children. And so just like how we have to give an account for the children that Yahweh gives us, we have to give an account for every word that comes out of our mouth, because words are the seeds of our thoughts, and so they can either be creative or they can either be destructive. And as we see in the lesson, whenever you speak a word and that word is destructive, you can't take it back. My friend, when you tell a lie on somebody, or when you spread a slander or gossip about somebody, even when you say that you are sorry, it does not undo what left your mouth. And you're going to learn that principle in a very powerful way. So even when you say that you are sorry, it cannot undo what the word has gone forth to do. And so we are going to see how Yahweh allows us to see that in the whole cleansing process. And so 2 birds were involved. One bird would be killed, and the other bird would be sprinkled with the blood of the dead bird, and that bird would be set free. And so what happens, as I said, we'll get the chance to go into that. But what I want to say is, we have to be careful of what we say. We have to be careful of what we do. And so what Yahweh did when he killed one bird was the atoning blood was required, because those birds that the guilty person brought, those birds that the person who needed cleansing brought, those birds actually represented the person. So one bird was killed, symbolizing that when a person gossips and slander, he really deserves death. The other bird, on the other hand, represents the effect of the slandering. And so what happened is that bird was supposed to be set free. That bird was supposed to be released. In other words, the bird that was killed represents the person who is slandering, who should be killed. The blood of the dead bird is used to sprinkle the live bird who would go free, symbolizing that when we tell a lie, that when we slander, that when we gossip, that when we carry out these 7 things spoken of in Proverbs chapter 6, What it is saying is that when we slander, when we tell lie, when we commit all of these negative word sins, that we never can ever take them back. And so literally what has to happen is that one bird represents us dying, the other bird represents the slander continuously perpetuating. And so what happened is that the blood of the dead bird that is applied to the live bird that has to go free represents a transference. So what Yahweh is saying is that when you slander, when you gossip, and when you carry out the sins of evil speech, that because you can't take it back. It has to go somewhere. It has to be embedded. And so Yahweh says, I'm going to transfer the guilt onto that bird, so that that sin or the blood or the word is embedded in that bird, and that bird is gone free. Symbolizing that even when we say that we are sorry, even when we say how much we are sorry, I'm telling you, it cannot turn around. You know, if you think about somebody, and I know of a person, a young man who was recently accused and charged with child molestation. He was actually locked up. And after months of trial, he was finally vindicated. It was finally proven that this man was innocent. But even after being proven to be innocent, just the allegation of being a child molester still continues to affect him up until this day. That person who told that malicious lie on him, even if he or she says, I am sorry, what they said will continue to affect. It will continue to fly in the airwaves. And so Yahweh says that if you want to be cleansed, when you bring those two birds, I'm going to kill one which would represent you dying, and I'm going to take that blood, that guilty blood, and I'm going to sprinkle that guilty blood on another bird and set that bird free, symbolizing that even after you have been acquitted, even after you've been set free, the damage continues to fly. The damage continues to perpetuate itself. And so this is how devastating, this is how serious gossiping, slandering, sins of evil speech are. That is the reason why we should avoid them. That is the reason why we ought to be careful. Just as how we are careful as to what goes into the mouth, we have to exercise the same care as it relates to what comes out of our mouth. Now, the scripture says that the priest was supposed to sprinkle the person who came for cleansing how many times? We did go through counting. How many times? 10 times? 8 times? No. How many times? 7 times. The priest had to sprinkle the person who came for his cleansing 7 times. Why 7 times? Well, apart from us knowing that 7 is a number of perfection, we know that 7 is a jubilee, and that there is a jubilee of purification, or the cycle, or the time it takes for the complete cycle of purification to take place is 7 days. Man has 7 cardinal points. In other words, man is a spiritual antenna. We are a spiritual antenna. And so there are 7 ways in which diseases as a result of sin come into our bodies. There are 7 cardinal points, like an antenna that is emitting, receiving, and giving off. We are receiving signals, and we are releasing or giving off signals. We are literally a walking, talking antenna. Because we have 7 cardinal points, the blood has to be applied to these 7 cardinal points to ensure that diseases do not come upon us. What is also so powerful is that Yeshua's blood was shed 7 times. Now, I know that some of you will go to the scripture and say that Yeshua shed his blood once and for all. Yes, Yeshua shed his blood once, but that once was at 7 intervals or 7 different times. And every time Yeshua shed his blood, it was to ensure that the blood would be applied. He shed his blood for every cardinal point of man. And when the scripture says that by his stripes you are healed, literally, Yeshua paid it all. And I want to share with you, what are these 7 cardinal points? Why did the priest have to sprinkle the blood 7 times? Let's look at the 7 cardinal points of man. Now, the 7 cardinal points of man, the first one is the head. And so Yeshua, when they plaited the crown of thorns and placed it on Yeshua's head, when the blood was shed from his head, it was shed to cover every single disease of the head and the mind. And so schizophrenia, depression, worry, fear, every type of psychological disease that affects us mentally, when Yeshua shed his blood cover that cardinal point of your body. The second cardinal point is the right hand. When he received the nail in his right hand, the blood that came out covered every disease that enters the body through the right hand. Arthritis, poor circulation, Yeshua's blood was shed to cover that. When the nail went into his left hand, Yeshua's blood was shed to cover every disease that enters your body through your left hand. And how many of you know that that's why you have to be careful when you shake hands? Because when you extend your hand to shake, you are extending an antenna. And so if your body is weak, you are going to be on the end of receiving. And so when you shake hands with somebody and you are emotionally or spiritually weak, you are going to receive from that person any negative spirits, any negative energy that the person has into your body. And so it is very important that as a people of Yahweh, we be very careful not to just go out there and shake hands. And, one has to ask the question, where did the custom of shaking hands came from? And we saw that coming from a European culture. This was one of the ways in which they defeated the nations that they went into, as they extended to them the right hand to shake it. They were winning their confidence and setting themselves up to defeat these new territories. The right foot. When the nail went into Yeshua's right foot, the blood that came out was shed to cover every ailment that enters the body through the right foot. And so it was with the left foot as well. With the torso, the stripes that Yeshua received on his body, all over his body, his back, the lashes went over his hands and so on. When that those stripes that he received on his body, the blood that was shed to cover the cardinal point of the torso or skin. Now, the skin is the largest organ that we have. Our skin is our largest organ, and there are so many different diseases. There are so many wastes that our body puts out through our skin, and yet there are so many different infections and diseases that we acquire through our skin. And so every form of skin disease that exists, when Yeshua shed his blood based on the scourges that he gained on his torso, it was to ensure that those skin disease, that those torso-related illnesses would be totally covered. The 7 cardinal points is the cardinal point of the organs. When they pierced his side, and out forth came blood and water. The blood that came out covered every single disease that enters our body through our organs, our heart, our lungs, our kidneys. You name the organs. And so these are the 7 cardinal points of man. Every disease, every single disease that you know about affects one of these cardinal points. Every disease that you know about enters the body through one of these cardinal points, because we are like an antenna. If you look on top of a hill, you will see that there are antennas there receiving or transmitting signals, receiving or giving off signals. And so that's how we are. We are a spiritual antenna. We are an antenna that is supposed to be aligned to the frequency of Yahweh. We are supposed to be hearing from Yahweh, but we are so diseased, we are so arrayed in this harmony that our frequency is being blocked, our frequency is being blurred, and so we cannot receive what Yahweh has for us. And so there's no problem with the source of information, with the source of our healing. What is the problem is with the frequency that we are on. So we are in the frequency where we are hearing from Asatan and not from Yahweh. And so the blood had to be sprinkled 7 times. Even though Yeshua shed his blood once, he shed it at 7 different points. And what he was doing was shedding his blood to cover the 7 cardinal points of man. And so right now I am in agreement with you. I come into agreement with you that your blood, you are healed. It's not that you are going to be healed. His blood was shed to cover those points already. All you need to do right now is to come into an understanding and begin to believe Yahweh and begin to walk in the Torah for that to be realized in your life. And another strange thing that we see the priest doing is that the priest apply the blood to the right ear, to the right big toe, and to the right thumb. And it was the blood and the oil, the blood of the sin offering, representing that the blood must reach or must be applied to the extremities, every single extremity of the body. The blood of Yeshua covers every extremity of the body. The right part of our bodies is the part of our body that was given more power. And so by applying the blood, Yahweh is saying that through sin you lost your power and authority. But by applying the blood to these extremities, Yahweh is saying that even the nail of your right thumb is anointed. I am restoring unto you the authority that you lose through disobedience. And so the blood of Yeshua goes to the extremities of our bodies. These part of our bodies where our nerve endings are also very sensitive. And so the blood of Yeshua is going right into those sensitive areas, giving life to them. These parts of the body, it's easy for them to become numb. It's easy, when we begin to walk in sin, these sensitive areas of our bodies become numb, become lifeless to righteousness, because sin, death starts in the body from the extremities of the bodies. And so when somebody is dying, the death starts from the tip of their toe and travels right up to their body. They'll begin to start to say, my foot is numb. I can't feel my fingers. And so it is because the process of death starts at the extremities of the body and climb and works its way right up to the head of the body. So Yahweh is saying that if you are going to be restored, for you to be restored, then the blood must be applied to the extremities. Those areas that were lifeless must receive life once more. And so I want to speak to those persons right now who are suffering emotionally, who are suffering physically from Sarah, from spiritual leprosy, that what you need is the blood of Yeshua HaMashiach. and I'm not being religious here, all of these physical rituals, all of these physical procedures had a deeper spiritual meaning. Then there was the scarlet thread. This was a thread that was dyed with a dye acquired from the crushed eggs of the scarlet worm found in oak trees. This represents the blood of Yeshua, who lowered himself to the level of a worm, but ironically, whose blood makes us clean. The thread also represents the very fiber of a person, a home, and society. So the scarlet thread symbolizes the very fiber of who a person is, the very fiber of what a home is, the very fiber of what a society is. That being scarlet, being washed in the blood of Yeshua. Blood plays a very integral part in life. And so if you watch those vampire movies, you realize that for them to live forever, they have to drink blood. Blood is a currency that is used in the spiritual realm. Where there is no blood, no transaction can take place. The scarlet thread is also a blood mark. Genesis 38 verse 28. In that particular passage, we see Tamar, who was actually being blamed or being accused of practicing whoredom, of practicing playing the harlot. And we saw how when she gave birth to Pharez and Zara, how a red scarlet thread was used to mark and identify the firstborn. So the scarlet thread was a blood mark. In Joshua 2 verse 18, Rahab tied a red scarlet, marking that place with the blood, so that when they would come to wipe out that scarlet thread, that blood mark would serve as a symbol that, listen to me, this person belongs to Yahweh. And so when we walk in Sara'at, when we are excommunicated, when we are put on the outside, we are outside of that Yahweh's protection. But Yahweh, when He is cleansing us, says, listen to me, you need to be tied with a scarlet thread. I want to mark you. I want to put a mark on you so that the enemy will know that I just purchased you, that you are off limits, that he can't pass a particular perimeter or border, that you are blood bought. And so Yahweh places a scarlet thread symbolizing that hands off. Alright? And so the scarlet thread was also very important in the cleansing process. And then another thing that we see Yahweh using is the two types of plants. He uses a cedar and he uses hyssop. Now, the cedar, the two types of plants, cedar is one of the most glorious plants in the forest, while hyssop is one of the tender grass of the forest, representing the two extremes of society that a slanderer may be from. Alright? That a slanderer may be from. And so it's very important that from an individual to a large corporation, Yahweh says if you are slandering somebody, you are going to be punished. And so it can be a major corporation and we see that a lot of media houses are in the business of slandering persons. A lot of media houses become excited when they hear negative news and want to run with it. But I'm telling you, if you are involved in slandering somebody, then Yahweh holds you accountable. You are going to pay. And so these are these are sins that Yahweh sees as being very, very difficult to prove in the court of law. And that is the reason why He exacts His own punishment. Zara'at in building, stones are in building. Chapter 14 verse 33 to 53. And it reads, and Yahweh spake unto Moses and unto Aaron, saying, when you be come into the land of Canaan, which I give to you for a possession, and I put the plague of leprosy in a house of the land of your possession, and he that owneth the house shall come and tell the priest, saying, it seemeth to me there is as it were a plague in the house. Then the priest shall command that they empty the house before the priest go into it to see the plague, that all that is in the house be not made unclean, and afterward the priest shall go in to see the house. And he shall look on the plague, and behold, if the plague be in the walls of the house, with a hollow strakes, greenish or reddish, which in sight are lower than the wall, then the priest shall go out of the house to the door of the house, and shut up the house 7 days. Alright, and so the priest is making his inspection. Verse 39 says, and the priest shall come again the 7th day, and shall look. And behold, if the plague be spread in the walls of the house, then the priest shall command that they take away the stones in which the plague is, and they shall cast them into an unclean place without the city. And he shall cause the house to be scraped within round about, and they shall pour out the dust that they scrape off without or outside the city into a clean place. And they shall take other stones and put them in the place of those stones. And he shall take other mortar and shall plaster the house. And if the plague come again and break out in the house, after that he hath taken away the stones, and after he had scraped the house, and after it is plastered, then what has to happen now is verse 44 says, and he shall kill the one of the birds. Then the priest shall come again and look, and behold, if the plague be spread in the house, it is a fretting leprosy in the house, it is unclean. And he shall break down the house, the stones of it, and the timber thereof, and all the mortar of the house, and he shall carry them forth out of the city unto an unclean place. Moreover, he that goeth into the house all the while that it is shut up shall be unclean until the even. And he that lieth in the house shall wash his clothes, and he that eateth in the house shall wash his clothes. And if the priest shall come in and look upon it, and behold, the plague hath not spread in the house, after the house was plastered, then the priest shall pronounce the house clean, because the plague is healed. And he shall take to cleanse the house 2 birds, and cedar, wood, scarlet, and hyssop, and pretty much the same formula is repeated as in the upper verses. And he shall kill one of the birds, and in an earthen vessel over running water. And he shall take the cedar wood and the hyssop and the scarlet and the living bird, and dip them in the blood of the slain bird and in the running water, and sprinkle the house 7 times. And he shall cleanse the house with the blood of the bird, and with the running water, and with the living bird, and with the cedar wood, and with the hyssop, and with the scarlet. But he shall let go the living bird out of the city into the open fields, and make an atonement for the house, and it shall be clean. This is a law for all manner of plague of leprosy and scald, and for the leprosy of a garment, and of a house, and for a rising, and for a scab, and for a bright spot, to teach when it is unclean, and when it is clean. This is the law, or the instruction of leprosy, or Sarahat. And so, my friend, spiritual leprosy, when a person is leprous, that spiritual leprosy can spread to a house. That spiritual leprosy can destroy the very fiber of a house, the foundation of a house. And so it is important. So many families are being torn apart. So many families are being destroyed. When persons carry their leprous state into a marriage, it can erode the very foundation of a firm house. And so it must be understood that all form of uncleanness, all form of spiritual conditions that are not clean must be dealt with, must be eradicated. Alright, and that is basically the principle of cleansing the leper. I pray and hope that which I have shared this yom was a blessing to you. I pray and hope that you have learned. I want to thank you for sharing with me. And as we complete this parashat, I wanna go in prayer with you. As I said, I have no words of my own. I have no blessings of my own. I can only declare that which Yahweh says. And so I want you to come into agreement with me right now as I lead you into the Aaronic blessing. Yivarekaka Adonai v'yishmereka. Ken yehi ratsan. Yahir Adonai panav elecha v'chinechu ken yehi ratsan. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'hasim shalom ken yehi ratsan. I pray that you are blessed, and as is usual, if you are blessed, I want to hear from you. I want to hear how this message is impacting you. So please call, write, email me, and so that I can share what is happening. Until next time, I want to say to you, Shabbat Shalom.